Welcome to Full Moon Rising Yoga. My name is Karen. Today's class is going to be yoga with strength, adding in a few weights while we're going through some of the yoga poses. And so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we're going to start with seated position with our knees bent. And let's go ahead and just take our neck and we're going to bring our neck into nice slow circles. Looking down at the floor, then up at the ceiling, on the floor, then go ahead and reverse direction. Then looking at the ceiling and then the floor. And one more. And bringing your head and your neck to center. Go ahead and take your, what we're going to do with our neck is we're going to take our right ear towards our right shoulder and then take your chin and just a little bit looking up almost towards, not quite over your right shoulder, but a little bit past it. And you'll feel this is just a little bit different of a stretch in the neck. And then bring your chin slowly towards your chest and then back to center. And then on the other side, take your left ear towards your left shoulder and then your chin just gazing up a little bit, not quite past your left shoulder. And then you can feel just a little different stretch on the right side of your neck. To come out of that stretch, go ahead and take your chin slowly back towards your chest and back to center. Let's go ahead and let's sit up on our knees a little bit here. So we're sitting up on our knees. We have our arms. Let's go ahead and take our right arm into big circles backwards, keeping our hips centered. Sometimes to help that is if we put our left hand on our left hip, it can really help focus keeping our hips centered, but engaging your glutes while we're doing this. Pulling in your belly button towards your spine. Go ahead, reverse direction. Now the palm of your hand is almost just sweeping up through the circle. And let's go ahead and reverse sides. Let's go ahead on the left side. So put your right hand on your right hip to just help keep the mind and focus on keeping our hips straight and level. So let's go ahead and take our left hand, big circles back, warming up those shoulders. Engaging the glutes, pulling that belly button in, and reverse direction. Very good. And let's go ahead and while we're kneeling, we're going to take our right leg and we're just going to straighten it out towards the right side on our mat. Our toes are facing forward. Take our left hand and we're going to slowly bring our left hand towards the mat. If you like, you can use a block here as well. Your right arm is going to sweep up overhead into a side stretch. Reaching those fingers, stretching them. And you can feel your body weight in your left palm on the mat. Slowly raise. Now, when you're coming up, use your abs. Help lift you up back to center. Bring your right knee in, and let's go ahead and take our left leg. Bring that out straight. Toes are facing forward. Right hand, palm is coming towards the mat, and left arm is sweeping up, stretching overhead. Pushing that right hand into the mat, making sure your right shoulder is over your right wrist. And to come up, use your abs to come back up to center. Bring your left leg in. Let's go ahead and just switch. So we're now facing the long ways of our mat. And let's go into table and do a couple cat-cow. Again, shoulders over our wrist, hips over our knee, tops of our feet are in the mat. Inhaling cow. Exhale cat. Inhale cow. Exhale, cat. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Coming back to center. While we're here, let's go ahead and take the hips. And you're going to keep your palms of your hands and your shoulders right in the same spot. Your gaze is going to continue down at the mat. And we're just going to put our hips in circles. So just bring your hips to the right a little bit, then back towards your ankles, to the left, and then in front. And go ahead and bring your hips into these circles for a few times. And go ahead and reverse direction. Now to the left side, back towards your ankles, to the right, in the front. Left, back, right, front. Very good. Back to table. Go ahead and tuck your toes under. And we're going to press our palms into the mat. And you're going to bring your knees up off of the mat using your toes, your legs, your abs, and you're going to keep them hovering off of the mat for a few breaths. Nice and strong. Now go ahead and lower your knees back to the mat. Take your left hand one step forward, right hand one step forward, and let's go ahead and raise your knees up again, hovering over the mat, engaging your abs, your quads, your glutes. Straighten your knees and move into downward facing dog. Go ahead and pedal your heels. Pushing forward with your hands into the mat as if you want to tear the mat apart with your feet and your hands. And then come to downward dog. Center, we'll stop pedaling our feet. Let's go ahead, put a little bit of weight in your left foot so we can raise the right leg up into three-legged dog, bending the knee, keeping your hips squared, lowering your ankle, shoulders are square, jaw is relaxed. Circle your foot. And then slowly straighten your knee, sweeping your knee through into pigeon. Tuck your foot under so the top of your foot is on your mat. Go ahead and adjust your hands to they're comfortable. This is nice to open up the hips. Go ahead and open your heart, meaning shoulders are coming back a little bit. We're engaging our glutes here too. And we're pushing the back of our foot into the mat. And heart is open, gazing up. Putting a little bit of weight into your right hand. If you would like, you can bend your left knee and reach back with your left hand and pull that foot in. If you like, you can reach up overhead and bring both hands into your king pigeon. Go ahead and slowly release. Come out of the bent knee. Place both hands on the mat. Now bring both elbows down. Put your palms together, almost in prayer pose, with your palms, staying engaged with your muscles. Couple breaths here. Place both of your palms on the mat, and we're going to push ourselves back into three-legged dog. Tuck your left toes under. Straighten that leg. Take your right leg and push up to three-legged dog, and then bringing your foot back to downward facing dog. If you'd like to vinyasa through, let's go ahead, push forward into your vinyasa, keeping your elbows tight to your side when you come down, moving into upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Putting the weight into your right foot and right palm. Raise your left foot into three-legged dog. Bend your knee, lower your heel, circle your foot. Straighten your leg, slowly sweeping into pigeon. Tuck your back foot under. Position your hands, shoulders are back. Engaging your legs, your abs, opening your heart, gazing forward. If you like, you can bend your right knee, reach back with your right hand. You can work on your balance here if you like. If you want to move into king pigeon, feel free. Slowly lower that knee, placing your palm back on the mat, and then go ahead and lower onto your forearms, your palms together, and a couple breaths here. Keeping your hips squared. Place both palms into the mat, tuck your right toes under, straighten your right leg, and then push back into three-legged dog, and then lower down to downward facing dog. Let's move into your vinyasa flow, keeping your elbows tucked into the side, moving into upward facing dog, keeping those glutes engaged, pushing back to downward facing dog. Let's go ahead and lower our knees and take a moment to go back into restorative child's pose. Keeping your arms out in front of you or by your side. Raising up out of child's pose. Let's move into plank. Moving into plank, tuck your toes under. Pushing the palms into the mat. Your shoulders are over your wrists. You're gazing in between both your hands, engaging your glutes, pulling your belly button towards your spine. Drop your knees. Put your hands one step, just a little bit, maybe half a step forward. Tuck your toes under and do 3 push-ups. Bring your hands back under your shoulders. Tuck your toes under, back into plank. You can either place your knees back on the floor for 3 more push-ups, or you can keep your knees off of the floor. 3 more push-ups. Back into plank. Keeping the integrity of the pose. Drop your knees or stay in regular push-up. Do 3 more push-ups. Push back into restorative rest child's pose. Hands either back behind your side or out in front. Moving back into table, we're going to go ahead and we're going to come into kneeling position. If you like to make it a little bit easier on your knees, go ahead and fold your mat. If you need a little bit more padding under your knees, go ahead and grab your weight. And what we're going to do is actually if you like, you can grab a block as well, or you can have your hand right on the mat. But I'm going to have my block, I'm going to put it not quite in between my legs, a little bit to the left. So it's in between the middle and directly in front of my left. My shoulder is going to be over my wrist. Back of my feet are on the floor. I'm going to grab my weight and we're going to go in and do 5 row. Pulling your elbow up, keeping the integrity of that pose, keeping your core engaged. 3 and 2 more. 4 and 5. Placing your weight on the mat, and let's go ahead and sit up and we're going to switch sides. Getting yourself situated on your block, shoulder over wrist, and then we're going to do 5 rows on the left side. Keeping your glutes engaged. When you're pulling up in your row, you want to feel that shoulder blade working its way towards the middle of your back. And the rest of your body should be nice and engaged and not moving to help you lift that weight. And lower your weight to the ground. And let's go ahead and do that one more time on each side. Let's go ahead and I'm going to try my block a little bit lower, making sure, checking my positioning here. My hips are over my knees. I'm just gazing straight down at the middle of my mat, and then I'm going to pull up into the row. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 more. 5. Let's go ahead and switch sides. And pulling up on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Very good. You can go ahead and move your weight off to the side of your mat and your block. And let's go ahead and we're going to move just back a little bit on our mat. We're going to lay flat, bringing ourselves with our belly flat on the mat, putting our hands, we're going to go up into cobra, putting our hands on the mat, palms on the mat, right underneath our shoulders, tucking our elbows towards our body, engaging the glutes, top of our feet in the mat, slowly pushing up. Let's go 3/4 of the way up. Elbows are still a little bent. And lower. When you lower, put your forehead towards the mat to keep your spine nice and straight. Come up on inhale, and let's straighten the elbows. Arms are nice and straight. And then slowly lower. And on the next one, let's go into upward facing dog. So elbows are in, pressing into the mat, bringing a little back bend, and our hips are off the floor, gazing up. Tuck your toes under and make your way to downward facing dog. Pedal your feet if that feels good for your calves. And go ahead and vinyasa through. And now elbows are staying close in. Upward facing dog. Back to downward facing dog. Let's go ahead, put weight into your left foot. Bring your right foot up into 3-legged dog. sweep it through, stepping towards the front of your mat. Your foot's in between both hands. You're in a lunge. And let's go ahead and rise up into lunge. Put your hands on your just above your knee. We don't ever want to put pressure on our knee. And feel that nice stretch. Go ahead and place both hands on each side of your foot. Step that right foot back into plank. Lower your left knee, and we're going to rotate into what could be. You could also do side plank this way if you want to keep both legs straight. Gazing up towards the ceiling past your right hand. If you want to have both legs straight, we'll be in side plank. Lower back down to plank. So lower your knees. Come back on your toes. Let's hover your knees over the mat. Engaging your core. Push into downward facing dog. Putting weight into your right foot in hand. Raise your left leg in a three-legged dog. Sweeping through, placing that foot in between your two front hands into lunge, raising up. See if your knee is over your ankle. If it's past your ankle, that indicates that you can put your foot forward a little bit more to go into the lunge, keeping your hips squared. Go ahead and place both hands down on the mat, and we're going to go into side plank on the other side. You can lower your right knee to the mat and then just hinging over, raising that right hand up, gazing towards the ceiling, or you can have both legs straight in side plank. And go ahead, both hands on the mat, back to plank, and go ahead and vinyasa through. From downward facing dog, go ahead and step or hop to the front of your mat. And slowly rise to a standing position. Sweep both arms up overhead. Exhale, arms to side. We're going to grab our weights first and then come back to the center of the mat. We're going to separate our legs a little bit more than hip width apart. And what we're going to do is whenever you bring your weights up, bend both arms so they're next to the shoulder, bend your knees into squat. We're going to straighten our knees, straighten our arms, not quite into star, but with our arms up overhead. And then bend into goddess. Up overhead, and then goddess. Up and goddess. Do that a couple more times, synchronizing with your breath. One more time up, and goddess. Go ahead and slowly lower. We're going to make sure our feet are situated. We're going to lower the weights in front of us. So you have them so your top of your hands are facing forward. I'm going to have a little bit of a squat here. And I'm going to go ahead and just lower down to the ground, gazing forward And then I'm going to stand about 3/4 of the way up. And then down. You should feel this in your hamstrings. And then stand about 3/4 of the way up. One more time. Lower nice and slow. And up. You can come all the way up. Let's bring our feet together. Go ahead and place your weights off to the side. And let's go ahead and sweep our arms up from mountain's pose and down to the side. One more time up. Inhale and exhale. Let's go ahead and bring ourselves to seated position on the mat. So we're in easy pose, but we're facing long way. We're going to bring be about center, sitting about center. Our knees are bent, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our arms, our palms facing each other, slowly leaning back, engaging your abs, but you're going to stop about halfway down. Raise your right leg, straighten that knee. Raise your left and straighten that knee. And then bring both to the mat. Go ahead and sit up. You can rebalance yourself, your seat on your mat, and we'll do that again. So our knees are bent, palms are facing each other, our hands are out. We're going to slowly, as if we're going to lay on the mat, we're going to stop halfway down, straighten your right leg, and then your left. And then slowly place your feet down. And let's go ahead and lower ourselves to the mat. Our arms are out, palms facing each other. But when we lower, let's just take it one vertebrae at a time. Very slow. Pulling that belly button towards your spine. Slower. Slower. And slower. Very good. Go ahead and place your hands on the floor. Straighten your legs. Take a nice restorative breath. Okay, go ahead and pull your right knee towards your chest, not all the way to your chest, but towards your chest. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up that hip. So we're going to slowly let that right knee fall towards the floor. You can keep your right hand underneath it to assist. And once you get to a comfortable spot, you may get a block if you need, or unless you go all the way to the floor. Keeping that left hip on the mat, we're going to open up that hip. Keeping your left leg straight, foot flexed. Couple breaths here. And then slowly, we're going to bring our right knee back to center. Feel free, use your right hand to self-assist to bring it back to center, and then straightening your right leg out. We'll do the same thing on the left side. Bring your left knee towards your chest, but not all the way to your chest. If you want to put a block underneath on the floor, then slowly opening that hip towards the left, keeping your right hip on the mat. Straighten that right leg, flex that right foot, and take a couple breaths here. And then self-assist, helping your leg come back to center, and go ahead and lower it down. You can push your block out of the way. So while we're here, let's go ahead and we're going to bring our heels close to our butts. We're bending our knees, our heels close to our butt. Go ahead and take a minute to grab just one weight. To grab one weight, you're going to hold the weight in both hands. Both our knees are bent. You're going to go ahead and straighten your arms up so your weight is up overhead, and then lower back towards your chest. Just nice, easy motion here. And then lower, and then raise it. And then lower and raise. And then lower and raise. One more time. Lower and raise. And on your next lower, you can go ahead and place your weight on the floor. So from here, we want to put our palms on the mat. We want to almost tuck your shoulders under, and we're going to push our feet into the floor and push our hips towards the ceiling. When you're here, see if you can bring your shoulders under a little bit more. See if you can work towards clasping your hands under your back. So here, our legs are together. Glutes are engaged, your feet pressing into the mat, your abs are engaged, your shoulder blades, your arms. Slowly release, unclasping your hands and bringing them to the side. Let's go ahead and do that one more time. Pushing your feet into the mat, raising your hips towards the ceiling. Get your shoulder blades situated where they're coming together underneath you, keeping those legs together. If you'd like, you could put a block in between your knees. That helps keeping those legs together, and clasp your hands under your back. Take a couple breaths here. And slowly lower, unclasp your hands, and go ahead, and we have our block. Put your block, your knees are still bent, in between your knees. Go ahead and bring your knees up to 90 degrees, flexing your feet. You can take your hands, you can keep them where they are right on the mat here. You can put your hands behind your head or under your head a little bit. But what we're going to do is we're going to lower keep our knees bent. We're going to lower our feet, tap our heels on the mat, and then bring them up, squeezing that block between our knees. Lower, tap, and bring it up. Keeping our feet flexed, abs engaged. Tap and up. Relax your face, relax your jaw. Synchronize your breath with your movements. And one more time. Tap and up. Go ahead and remove the block and go ahead and do a nice full body stretch, meaning straighten your legs, straighten your arms, stretch your arms back as much as possible and your legs out. Take a couple deep breaths here. Okay, then slowly we're going to let's go ahead and sit up. But to sit up, what we want to do is almost like a really slow sit up. So our feet are in the mat, our knees are bent, our legs are out just a little bit. And let's slowly crunch our way up to our mat. So we're sitting. So we're sitting here. Let's go ahead, straighten your right leg, take your left foot over your right leg. So almost where your knee is, you're in line with your heart center. Your right leg is flexed, straight, engaged. Right foot is flexed. Take your right arm And you're going to put the socket of your right elbow in with your left knee. You're going to pat your right hand on your leg. You're going to put your left arm back and you're going to gaze over your left shoulder for a side twist. Keeping your right foot flexed, pulling your belly button in. And then slowly release. Straighten your left foot. Go ahead and shake them out a little bit. With your left foot now straight, take your right leg, bend it over your left foot. Your right knee is in line with your heart center. Your left foot is straight, foot is flexed. I'm going to take my left hand and put that elbow, the bend of the elbow, in with my knee. I'm going to pat my leg. I'm going to reach over my right shoulder and gaze over my right shoulder, keeping the left foot flexed, right foot into the mat. And slowly come out of the pose. Okay, if there's any last poses that you feel that your body wants before we go into Shavasana, please feel free to take a minute to do that. And what we'll do is we'll meet on the mat for Shavasana. I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to make my way back to the mat. Again, nice and slow. Take this opportunity to engage the abs one more time. Arms out, knees bent. Slow. One vertebrae at a time. If you want to bring both knees in before Shavasana, that always feels good to rock back and forth. And then go ahead and get comfortable for Shavasana, whether it's a blanket, something over your eyes, maybe just putting a sweater on. We're going to have our palms facing the ceiling, our feet nice and relaxed. Our legs are separated just a little bit where it's nice and comfortable, just like a natural relaxation. So we want to take a few minutes in Shavasana. We want to balance that. We're strengthening our muscles, but we also need to relax our muscles. So it is still important to take this time for Shavasana. While you're here, focus on, through the next few minutes, on your stomach rising and falling with every breath. So just go ahead, take a moment, take one deep breath in through your nose, exhale through your mouth, find your normal breathing rhythm, and then focus again on your stomach rising and falling with each breath. Remember to relax your jaw. Slowly bring movements back by wiggling your fingers and your toes, circling your feet and your wrists. And go ahead and move and roll over to one side. Feel free to put your hand underneath your head, your forehead to the mat. Hug your knees. Find what's comfortable for you. A couple more breaths here, still focusing on your stomach rising and falling with each breath. Relax your jaw. Take your hand, push into the mat, bring yourself up to seated position, easy pose. Go ahead and bring both arms up overhead. Inhaling, palms together, exhaling, hands to heart center. And slowly open your eyes. Well, this was great. Thank you so much for joining this class. I'm really curious on the amount of weight that everybody is using while they're doing this class, maybe with a type of weight, how many pounds that they're using. Go ahead and drop that in the comments and visit our playlist. We do have a variety of different classes and different instructors. So find what works best for you. Have a great rest of your day.